Unholy Blood is my favorite manhwa of all time. I love this story because it's about an overpowered character. If you don't like that in a main character, I don't think this is for you, but the story has a unique way of keeping things moving forward. Plus, sometimes it can be fun to watch someone super strong just be super strong. That's why we like characters like Superman or Wonder Woman. Let's also take some time to admire the beautiful art style. This is Haiyan. She's our leading lady who just wants to live a normal life. She grew up under the protection of this guy, Father Michael. Yes, we can take a minute to admire him. And she watches over her two little siblings. Now, you can infer from the synopsis that Haiyan has a secret, and spoiler alert, it's that she's also a vampire. But Haiyan is different. The vampires we see running around causing trouble aren't full vampires. 10 years ago, these vampires started to show up in this world, and it was essentially like an outbreak. Many, like Haiyan, just want to live a life of their own and often hide themselves not to draw attention. Haiyan just happens to be a full-fledged vampire. I'm going to do my best to gloss over major story details so you have to read it yourself, but I do need some justification and evidence and a reason to make this a full video. I still think about this story all the time, even though it finished a whopping 3 years ago. She's a strong woman who doesn't get pushed around. Each battle she faces, each person who tries to mess with her gets flattened, and if she doesn't get them the first time, she will get them eventually. She doesn't start out physically weak. This is not about Haiyan learning to control her powers or master them. She's already a killing machine, and it's so satisfying to see that. A male equivalent character would probably be someone like Ijin from Teenage Mercenary. And in general, we don't really see women who are given the character traits like Haiyan. And if they do have them, they're a side character or a villain. This story is special to me because it's a perfect blend of good characters, good romance, and a good story. Now, yes, I mentioned romance, and if you're not a fan of romance and action, this build-up will definitely, hopefully, change your mind. We watch both characters grow as themselves and together, and when it does happen, you're so relieved and happy you might even shed a tear. And of course, with romance, you need another person, and here he is. The most Dorito-shaped man in the world. His name is Untae. He's a police captain / detective. He's a wonderful counterpart to Haiyan. They just click, even though it's a little bit of a runaround at first. He's funny, he's goofy, and I mean, come on. According to this chart, he's definitely a hunk. But like I said, he has heart, and he's not an adversary for Haiyan ever, really. He supports her without getting in the way, he doesn't underestimate her, and he wants to be there for her even though he can't do as much. Now, the vampires in this world are not vampires humans can coexist with. Both Haiyan and Untae's goals, which unites them in the first place, is to eradicate these vampires so people can go back to living normal lives. It's kind of like a dungeon crawl with different bosses she has to face one by one that all lead up to the big bad. We watch Haiyan go through a journey of denying her powers, to using them to her advantage, to eventually accepting that this is who she is and fully embracing this look. We also see how hard she tries to hide herself and how bad she feels that she simply exists. She blames herself for something out of her control. I kid you not, one particular episode in the beginning made me cry so hard, I didn't even know it was coming, and from then on I was hooked and could not get enough. Also, make sure you read it on the WEBTOON app because there's amazing music. All the characters we meet along the way have their reasons for becoming vampires too. We see the world they've lived in previously, and it's kind of a last resort thing if you can infer what I'm saying. Our main antagonist has a very deep connection with Haiyan, but I'll let you figure that out on your own. I'm sure some people dislike this, but as I mentioned previously, Haiyan is overpowered. But think of it like your Captain Levi, your Gojo Satoru, any character you can think of who's not usually the main one. This kind of character to me is meant to be a light in the dark. When it gets bad and scary, this character type comes to the rescue and reassures you as an audience member that it will be okay. That's her. But this time that character type is standing in the spotlight. Haiyan also doesn't take the high road at times. She does have to kill, and yes, it weighs on her, but she does have to weigh the cost of taking someone beyond help out of the world to keep others safe. Essentially, she doesn't show mercy to someone who's definitely going to kill someone if she doesn't kill them. By the way, when vampires die in this world, their corpses disappear, so it's kind of easy cleanup too. Each mission they go through, of course you're worried if something could go wrong, but the way she's able to handle each new situation is refreshing, and she doesn't often rely on anyone but herself. That's not to say there aren't moments of weakness that do bring her back down to earth, but those moments are what make the story great. Since I'm trying to get you to read it, I'm not going to go over any more story details, but I will give you some very fun examples of her doing what she needs to do. And since this has been finished for 3 years, kind of a spoiler, but the final showdown does eventually happen, and wow, it is painful. The music, combined with what is going on externally and internally for all of the characters present, made me sob. The payoff was incredible. All the emotions and pain you felt come to a head here, and you're left feeling conflicted about this fight even happening. The end of the series leaves you wanting more, and the spin-offs are just right. I will never stop recommending the story to people. It's so incredibly well written. To me, it proves that you can have a character like this who's a woman, and the story will still be entertaining. Yes, of course, everyone has weaknesses, and she does too, but the way she never gets tiring as a person and the way you fall for her is something so special. I highly recommend you read this, because if you don't, you're missing out on a masterpiece. If you have any suggestions for webtoons like this, please leave them in the comments. I want to read more. Thank you for joining me on this hopefully coherent enough recommendation. Bye.